Hey, everybody, I don't know about you, but as you've watched out over the world, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not just isolated to Eastern Europe. It's spread all over the world, and you can see it in market instabilities. You can see it here. People who do not think that that war is affecting you, all you got to do is look at gas prices. You look at your food prices. You see the global change that has happened. But you know something that's also affected investments as well. And I've said all along, legacy precious metals is your navigator. They're the ones that see you through to get to the next level. The good news about this is even with market volatility, market instability, you've got options. And gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold. And gold presents a hedge against this inflation and that protects you against the weakening dollar, which we are seeing. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust to deal with gold and silver and the other precious metals. You need this investment. You need this as part of your portfolio to keep you buffered from what we're seeing in the world, war and volatility in the market. This is where you need to be. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive about this. Get on board with it. Call them at 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. legacypminvestments.com, your navigator in a volatile world of investments.
Do you want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Doug Collins Podcast. It is Friday, reality day. It's Friday check-in. It's the best of, it's the worst of, it's whatever we come up with. James and I figured it out a long time ago that we're going to come up with what we have found to be the more interesting, maybe off-the-wall topics, sometimes serious, sometimes not serious, topics as we get into it today. James, welcome back to Friday. We made it again to Friday, so it's good to be a part of that. Was up in your old stomping grounds this week a little bit, doing some Fox Outnumbered and doing some things, and picked up the New York Post. And I have to say, the New York Post is probably the I'm not going to say it's the epitome of the best journalism in the world, but where else do you get Page Six? Where else do you get all these stories and occasionally thrown in a real story every once in a while? I mean, I'm telling you, it's just the greatest thing in the world.
The New York Post has its moments, and yeah, the Page Six, the big explosion page is usually the Mets losing or something like that.
Well, also they have the best. Frankly, they have the best front pages.
Yes, for sure, sure.
I mean, they can come up with some of the best front pages. And yesterday, I guess it was when I picked one of these up. The front page was a big picture of. And if you're watching us here on Rumble or wherever else where you can get to. You can see it's mine with the Hunter Biden
New York there nailed
face in it. It was pretty wild. But I did have to start off this sort of off the wall Friday. I had to start off with this story, and it was return. Their headline was "Return Earned to Sender." And what has happened here is a special delivery of something. But a Brooklyn-based indie rocker got a package of. And it had to be an indie rocker.
Of course.
Okay, I love how they threw this in here. Is a package of cremated human remains belonging to a stranger in the mail, and was stunned when the funeral home that sent them initially told him it wasn't their problem. This guy named Hamilton Lethauser, 44, frontman for the popular indie punk band The Walkmen, was gobsmacked Tuesday when he opened the cardboard container and found the ashes inside in another plain cardboard box. It was just kind of shocking. The remains were marked. Now get this, James. The remains were marked October 7th, 2017.
So those have been floating around for 6-7 years? Is that what they're talking about?
It had been shipped, it had been shipped to the current resident of the studio apartment out in East Williamsburg or wherever this is at. Anyway, he tried to call the funeral home to straighten things out, and the owner was extremely unhelpful. He said something like, "It's your problem now," and actually hung up on me. But before he hung up, the alleged the alleged asshole, I love how they did this, let it slip that after no one came to claim the remains, he tried to ship them to a man named Robbie or possibly Ronnie, who may have lived at the address in 2017.
That's crazy. So,
I mean,
of course, though, it was a musician that got sent to that, an indie rocker, whatever the hell they want to call
yeah,
it.
the Rose Hill Crematorium in Linden, New Jersey, where a rep told the Post that the remains had been picked
Well,
up
there
by
you
the
go.
funeral.
It's a guy from New Jersey. It's Linden, New Jersey. They're just sending it out wherever they can.
But the funeral home, this is pretty cool. So the funeral home now is going to pick up the remains. Within hours of the Post inquiry, Newman sent a worker to the Rocker's apartment to retrieve. I love now how this guy went from this, sort of a barely known musician to now he's a rocker. I love how they describe this.
This is how you become famous now, is that you just have to accidentally get someone's dead family member.
There was no address listed for the dead man's full name or anything. The city health department didn't immediately return our inquiry as to how do you get strangers' ashes in the mail.
This is a mob hit come to life. They took care of the guy, and now they're labeling it differently, and they're like, oh, just send it to whoever.
Yeah, we just threw it. Another interesting that I thought was pretty interesting. Everybody talks about crime in New York and the issues going on. They did a breakdown that 27% of the shootings occur in 6 precincts.
Is that right?
Now, you being from up in that part of the world, you probably would understand it. 4 of the precincts are in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Woodlawn, Wakefield, Williamsbridge, and Baychester.
So this is something if you're from the area or your friend, because a lot of my friends went to school in the Bronx, and one of my best friends actually went to school in Manhattan College, which is in the Bronx, which is hilarious every time I say it. Manhattan College in the Bronx. And his area was not terrible, but there's also Fordham in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And if you go to Fordham, everyone who goes to Fordham, I had a couple friends who went there, some of my best friends, that there is a small radius you can go to around the building. You can go to a couple bars, and then you got to go back inside if you're going to stay in the Bronx. Because if you don't, you will get mugged, stabbed, or shot. Those are the rules of going to Fordham.
Well, that is it. Like I said, they had the 4 up there. You see Brooklyn, and also they had Grand Concourse as well. So it's 4 in Grand Concourse. Then let's see here. Port Morris, Claremont. And then they had, there's 2 in Brooklyn, Brownsville, Ocean Hill, and East New York, Cypress Hills in Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brownsville. Mm-hmm. That's a tough neighborhood. Yeah, that's all making sense.
6 of the precincts account for 27% of the.
That's pretty insane when you say it out loud, but
in New York City, 27%. That's a ton. As we go on, but again, this is just the ramblings of the world of
the New York
Post. So I mean, it is just. I thought we'd start off there. I mean, again, what they used to say was in my day when it was it's going to be a bad day when you show up for work and saw the 60 Minutes truck outside your apartment, outside your business. Now it is, you show up at your doorstep and you get ashes delivered to you. So it's like,
yeah, that's the new. Yes, that's the new. It's going to be a bad day.
Yeah, new bad day. Speaking of bad days, what is going on in Dallas with the zoo down there?
Doug, I don't know what. I really don't know what is happening in the Dallas Zoo other than there's a conspiracy theory to take it down from the inside.
So we got an inside. Are the animals pulling a prison break here?
The animals are taking down the system, man. It's it's one of the strangest, funniest, and also saddest things because I must have been about a month ago, maybe a little less. Now that I'm in Dallas, I try to follow things that are about Dallas and, try to learn what's going on. And it just says, it was a joking page that said, be careful. There's a clouded leopard probably in your neighborhood. And it just said the Dallas Zoo couldn't find a clouded leopard. Now, it happened to be in the zoo still, but it got lost, which means it was released in some way, shape, or form. Now, this cat is probably only 30 or 40 pounds. and it's not hurting anybody, even though we all have cats, and a 12-pound cat can piss you off just as much as terrifying as a pit bull sometimes. But that's not the point. The point is this thing went missing. And then a little while later, a cage was opened. A monkey cage was opened. Nothing was taken, but a cage was opened. Then a little while later, they find a dead vulture, one that was a rare species and had fortunately, like kind of brought his species back to life. And then a little while later, 2 tamarins, also those are monkeys, were stolen from the Dallas Zoo. What the hell is going on?
Now, didn't I read a report, James, that they may have arrested 2 people on that one, and they got them again at the aquarium?
They had a photo of the guy. They were just walking. I don't know what's. It's almost like it's almost like they're like we don't care what you do, Dallas Zoo. What are you gonna do? We took your monkeys. It's such a strange thing. Like, what are you going after the zoo for? Like, it's not like a big, someone was explaining, is it for like animal trafficking? And they're like, no, you don't need them. We have those by the billions. They don't need to steal them and go through all the effort of breaking into the Dallas Zoo. I don't know who the article is, but they were saying that they just think somebody is messing with the Dallas Zoo, which is so much funnier. There's just somebody out to get, like, somebody at the Dallas Zoo pissed somebody off so much that they are now messing with everything at the Dallas Zoo.
But it sounds like this could be almost internal, don't you? I mean, I know you said about internal, but like is an employee or somebody who has,
absolutely,
because you just can't get into the zoo.
I was going to say, I've been there twice. I'm not saying it's impossible to get in, but it's not somewhere you can just walk around and do whatever you want. Like, it's still a zoo. There's still
my
gates.
question is, do they not have anybody there at night? I mean, because I read an article about this when you pointed out, and I'd heard of some stories about this, but they said, well, we're upping our camera capabilities. It's like, well, why don't you up people capabilities?
This is the problem when people are talking about how come you guys don't have salt trucks, and why is everyone slipping and sliding across Dallas the last few days? And it's just they're not prepared. This is something I'm finding out about Dallas. They are not prepared for anything.
Even the even the playoffs.
Yes. Oh man, I will be adding a kick snare to that, my friend. It's so funny though. Like, I don't want to bash on the city I'm in, but it's just funny. Like, they're like, I'm reading the comment sections of all this stuff, and this is talking about the weather, and they're like, this isn't the first time we have snow in our lives. They just don't want to do anything. You know what they do, apparently? They pour salt water on the ground, which makes it worse.
The brine.
Yeah. I don't know. Apparently that's what some of the trucks are doing. That's ridiculous. But back to the Dallas Zoo. They're probably just like, maybe it's a system of like, who's going to go after the Dallas Zoo? Well, you know what? Somebody went after it for about a month, and you guys couldn't do anything about it for a month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's, from what we can gather, they're not finished yet. I mean, we don't know that.
No, I'm sure in like a couple days, I'm going to hear 2 chimpanzees escaped with one of the zookeepers.
Oh, this is beginning. This is beginning to be, this could be a saga of the Dallas Zoo. The saga of the Dallas Zoo. Well, today a lion walked out the front door. We don't know how he got there, but hey, folks, I would be cautious if I was living near the zoo. When they get really bad, though, James, is when the snake house starts letting out.
Don't even. If that, I don't live close enough for it to affect me, but I did see what happened to Florida when somebody released one python the last 25 years. They got more.
Oh, yeah.
They literally pay people to kill them up there. So you never know. It's like introducing a species, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Everglades right now, pythons and stuff, and that's a real problem. And you're talking about invasive species. But I saw an article the other day talking about snakes, which I'm not a big fan of, but snakes, that there was I think it was like a 39-foot python in Brazil. 39 feet.
Well, maybe we were speaking about, we talk about Joe Rogan's podcast a couple times on this show.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking to an expert, and he says that there are probably, okay, so you say 39 feet. I don't know if this is the same. This is recently just found?
Yes.
Okay. Because he says he believes there's 30-footers out there, so maybe this must be very recent. But there was a time where apparently a decorated pilot in the Army, it's not American, maybe they were Swiss, I don't want to get it wrong, and a couple of others were flying over, I believe it was Africa, where there aren't the Congo, where there aren't really any snakes, nothing big.
Right.
And apparently there was something so big that they flew down to it, and it attacked the helicopter. And apparently it was about 50 feet long.
Oh, wow. I messed up. It's 33 feet.
Right.
From
30. That's still 33 feet.
And then they found
that's
another
a
one,
home.
I think, as well, that was bigger than that. So, I mean, it's like, they're picking these things up with cranes.
Yeah, listen, man, we've all seen Anaconda. Nobody wants that. There's a terrifying idea, and I know that it's not going to happen, but Florida has enough. If they linked all the snakes together, they could just wrap around the state and cut it off, and it can float out towards Cuba.
Well, that's pretty wild. I mean, just last year they saw there was a 23-footer. I mean, so look, if you're in the Dallas area, I will say is this for all of our listeners in the Salem world around Dallas. If you're living near the zoo, might be a good time to either invest in a watchdog, some other stuff, because you may be getting more animals than you know what's out there.
Yeah, if you invest in a watchdog, no, you need to invest in a sonar tracking, maybe a flamethrower just in case.
Yeah, I just want to know they're out there.
Nothing's coming to my door.
They come out. All right. Well, also, by the way, on a quick note, though, you had found an article where there was a 30-year-old dog.
Yeah, I saw this the other day. Doug, a 30-year-old dog. 30.
Wow.
The dog is in Portugal. Now, apparently, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, somebody had mentioned that their dog was the oldest dog. It was 25 years old or something. Right. It was this little monster Chihuahua. And I'm not going to mince words. Chihuahuas are the worst animal that's ever existed. And they're awful, and I hate them. But this dog just looks like a little chubby, brown, happy, Labrador. It looks like a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, if anyone's ever seen one of those. But it's a little heavier. But 30 years old? 30?
Wow.
There are people I know don't make it to 30, and there's dogs that, when I think about that achievement, I've seen, think about your friend's 16-year-old dog that's laboring to get from the bedroom to the door, and he goes, man, it's time. My life is ending. This dog is standing. It's just sitting up at 30 years old, just living.
You're just going at it.
Talking about good genes. My God.
Yeah, if you took the old adage of 7-year dog life, I mean, that's 210.
Yeah, that dog's like a wizard. He's just
keeps on going. Well, as we move away from the Dallas Zoo and we move away from our stories of people getting ashes sent to them, and also the Dallas Zoo can't keep their stuff inside, we move to the final segment today. I think we're going to tuck into, and it is also, again, New York Post played this out very well. If you're looking at it, it says, "We miss you, Tommy," and this is the retirement of Tom Brady for the second time. Not ironically, I think he probably planned this. It came on the same day he retired last year.
Oh, weird. Who would have thought? Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's talking. But look, the Post has had some incredible front pages on Tom Brady over the years, and some good, some bad. I mean, I was going back through some of these, James, and looking at, and frankly, I'd almost forgotten about Deflategate.
Oh, of course.
And the balls, and then going bye Brady and all this. Anyway, Tom Brady retired. I think he will retire this year. I think probably in. look, I'm not going to get into anybody else's business, for that matter. But you wonder if he really, at the end of this year, thought, well, I maybe should have
Hindsight is
done it the year
2020, huh,
before.
Doug?
Yeah, every much so. But now he is. The rumor, again, he's got a 10-year already signed contract with Fox. I mean, $375 million or something like that. To show you this is interesting. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, player, and that goes. But he made like $324 million playing football. He's going to make $375 million, and that was total in his football career, 20-something years. He's going to make a 10-year period, $375 million, sitting in a booth with Fox, and he's never been in the booth before. I mean, this is like, okay. But don't you feel? I mean, don't you just know Greg Olson's like saying, "Really, man?
Yeah,
really?"
That's good. Well, first of all, Greg Olson got his shot on the big stage and he blew it. All right, that whole Monday Night Football thing was a disaster. But Greg Olson's fine. He's actually from my neck of the woods. We used to get our tails handed to us in football by them. I think it was Wayne or Northern Highlands. I don't know. But this is what I think is going to happen, because Tom Brady said he's not rushing to the booth, right? He wants to spend time with his kids and all the other lies he's telling us.
I think he'll go because he can take a gap here. I mean, because it's open to whenever he wants to come.
Isn't that crazy?
How'd you like to have a $10 million a contract to just whenever you want to show up?
Somebody calls me up and be like, hey, anytime you want to show up, here's $10 million. Here's $365 million for 10 years. You're like, okay, cool. I'll see you in a couple of years. I'm going to take some time off. That's like winning the lottery and then saying, why don't you just hold my ticket for a couple of months?
No, it's interesting in the sense of, where we're, where he's going to go. I think, the rumor is that he did it now again. I think he timed it as well. I thought it was pretty funny that Gronk tweeted at him and said, look, I said everything last year, man. Hey, welcome back to retirement. But the rumor is that he'll probably have a cameo during the Fox Super Bowl stuff.
Yeah,
next
he'll
weekend.
Probably have something going on.
Yeah,
sure.
We'll see how that works out. But it got us to thinking. When you think about Brady's retirement, you think about retirements. Retirements that make headlines are a difference, and you think about that in times, because it seems like every year we're talking about retirements. I mean, you got Aaron Rodgers is still there. I heard an interesting reason why Aaron Rodgers will come back. You want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it.
Aaron Rodgers is going to come back at least one more year because he doesn't want to retire and be in the same Hall of Fame class as Tom Brady.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Listen, we talk about, and this is not to diminish anything, but if you're in the same, if you're in the same Hall of Fame class as Tom Brady, and they're talking about 7 championships and the will to win, and then they're like, and also that other guy who's Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, he's got one or two.
One ring by accident. Anyway.
Ring, yeah. And look, and I'm not, I don't want to hate on Aaron for a little bit, but it is interesting to me how the media picks out, and we're diverting a little bit from topic, but how the media will pick out a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or like some others and say, oh, they're Hall of Fame. Like everybody's talking about Russell Wilson being Hall of Fame. I don't think Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Listen, Russell Wilson is one touchdown away from becoming a Hall of Famer. You think about it that way. If Russell Wilson doesn't throw that ball, he's a 2-time champion. In his first few years, he's a Hall of Famer. The reason Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer is because he's the greatest thing I've ever seen next to Patrick Mahomes throwing a football. And we can all see it with the eye test. You don't need to. But one championship and a bunch of big losses. Anyway, you need to turn this into a sports show, but you understand.
No, it's what it is. But
speaking
of.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we came up with the idea to do our 5 biggest retirement announcements. And that's what it just when we were thinking about it, it was just like, my first, all right, well, why don't we go 1 and 1 each time? And they can be the same. That's fine. But one of my first, I won't go in any order. This is not in any significant order, but one of them is Michael Jordan's first retirement. Now, I wasn't around for it, but I was a child. I was born. But the reason I bring it up is because he was only in the league for 9 years at that point. which is the greatest player on the planet, retires after about 10 seasons, almost about 10 seasons.
Yeah, I can, that was a surprise, especially, and then the whole I'm going to go play baseball and then come back to basketball.
Baseball, yes.
I mean, it was look, I mean, that's a good one. And I can, because the shock value of it at the time, because I mean, remember at the time you still had Magic and you still had Bird and you still had, had just, recently gone off stage, and they played 14, 15, 16 years.
Right.
And
he just won his third championship.
Exactly.
And he's like, I don't have anything else to do, and I'm leaving.
He said, I'm out of here. I've got one for you that from a just pure shock value. And it sort of set the tenor for some of the others that I'm going to talk about. And that was Andrew Luck.
Doug, that is my next one.
Yep.
That is
the
craziest retirement announcement I can remember as far as, like you said, shock value.
Yep. It is. I mean, because you think about it. Here was a guy that, again, had that early, Hall of Fame, swagger, so to speak. I mean, he, even if he had good wins, bad losses, I mean, it was always come back, well, Andrew Luck is still this, all-world stud, okay? And then to just walk away from it. And then now, what was it, 3 or 4 years, he just started talking about it a little bit. And
and he's barely talking.
Yeah, he really isn't talking about it. And so you really begin to wonder. I think one of the things that will come out eventually more, because he's alluded to it a little bit, was just the pressure. And
absolutely,
and injuries, and I think look, for some they just don't want to continue to do that, and also with the risk of injury. So that was one from for me, that Andrew Luck, and it set the stage for a few others that I'll book up on the list here in a minute. So what's your next
one? So one of them, and this is just Macaulay Culkin retiring at 14. The kid had, I know this is silly, but you think about the fact that kid was probably the most famous child actor at the time. And in like 2 years after he's done with whatever weird stuff, he just left. He just disappeared. He's like, I'm done, whatever. I'm not going to, he maybe did 1 or 2 other things his entire time. He's still rich as can be, living the dream, but and I know that he went into the crazy, he lived a crazy life, but I almost find it like impressive that someone can just walk away from all that, even at 14, because you don't know what you're doing at 14.
No.
He didn't know what he was doing when he was making 3 of the most famous movies of all time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, you wonder how many of those child actors.
Was funny when I thought about it.
For me, I think I wonder how many of those child actors wish that they had walked away.
Oh my God! Yeah. Tell me about it.
There's only so many that actually did it and then stayed with it. And really, one I can think of who you talk about went through the ringer was Robert Downey Jr.
Oh my God!
I mean, it took going literally. What's the old thing? If he went to hell and back. To get back to where he was.
Yeah.
You see the Brat Pack kids. Rob Lowe is about the only one who survived that.
And I heard him do a full story about how he was a straight up alcoholic and barely made it.
Oh yeah, and now to look at him, I mean, the man doesn't age. I mean, it's just pretty amazing.
Yeah, Rob Lowe pisses me off. It's ridiculous that he looks that good at that age. But you know what, Doug? Maybe one day we'll do a best redemptions, because Robert Downey Jr., you want to put somebody on the list of best redemptions. That guy went from making the Brat Pack era to disappearing and going to jail, and then coming back and being part of the biggest movie, the head of the biggest movie franchise in the history
and
of
really
a
good actor, at the time of it.
Yeah.
It is. All right, moving on. Here's another one. And again, this one predates you and I both, but I think it set the standard for what we all sort of look at is the sort of gold standard of an athlete, and and it's also a mix tinged with a little bit of sadness, and that's Lou Gehrig.
Oof. Doug, that's a good one. I mean,
retiring out, I'm the luckiest man in the world, Yankee Stadium. I mean, one of the greatest Yankees of all time, struck down by, this sickness that we know now as ALS. And, just an interesting, I mean, to me, that one was one growing up, because I remember, reading, and watching the old movie, Pride of the Yankees and all that kind of stuff. So for me, Lou Gehrig would be one that I would have to say, not necessarily from a shot bag, but he's always looked at as this is class. This is in the face of adversity. Here's a retirement, and here's somebody going out.
That is, Doug, that is a good one. Now, I have to ask this question because I feel like I might be wrong about this. Did Lou Gehrig replace Wally Pipp? Or was that someone else?
I don't know.
All right, because you know the Wally Pipp story, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because if it's Lou Gehrig, he retired and he retired Wally Pipp, which would be also hilarious in that.
Yeah, it's pretty
I could be wrong about that. Now, that is a very good one. Now, here's someone who I hate with a passion. I'm going to bring him up. But I think it was his third retirement that was official, and that's Brett Favre.
Well, Brett was on my list as well.
Okay, the reason I put Brett Favre on this list is not because his retirements were shocking. It's because I remember how annoying they were. And I remember the last one when he finally retired with us, which is, I hate saying it out loud, when he threw that interception on purpose in the NFC Championship game to ruin the Vikings' life. No, but I remember the second announcement. He retired once, then he retired twice, then he was debating retiring once. He's all this stuff, right? But I remember seeing it was the first time I remember Brett Favre. I remember seeing on ESPN, like, here are planes and people trying to talk him down from doing stuff. And, hey, this plane's going to New York. Is he retiring, or is he going to the Jets, or is he going to the Giants? Blah, 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 blah. And I remember thinking, like, who cares about this person and where he's going? And now I realize what a big deal it is now that I'm a little older. But it's just very funny. Like, at the time, it was like, of course that was the big news. The guy who, either gunslinger or whatever they want to call him, this really famous person, is either retiring or not retiring and going to change football landscape. And, like, that's just very funny. That's how it goes.
Well, again, you talk about moving over. I mean, if it wasn't for Favre moving on, Aaron Rodgers,
Tell me about it.
The whole issue here. But also with Favre, remember, the story of Favre also starts back with the wonderful Atlanta franchise, in which I've known now for 50 plus years. Is he was there and we traded him.
Yeah, but he was doing Oxycontin on the side, so Okay, I got one more that might be a little bit controversial. But this man was forced into retirement, and that's Richard Nixon.
I am not a crook.
When I was doing this list, he came up pretty quickly, only because I was thinking, like, yeah, these are all people who announced their retirement. But this man had to go on national television and walk away from the biggest seat in America.
Yeah.
And was basically forced into retirement by the United States.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
and that gave me a good laugh. I was like, if anyone's big announcement, retirement announcement, it's Richard Nixon.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually remember that, and it was it was really.
That's what I wanted to ask you about it, because, like, I asked my mom about the moments because she was around for Martin Luther King's death, and my dad was born during JFK's death. But, like, that moment was what, 19? I don't want to get this wrong. Is it 72? 71? 74. Okay.
I think it was 74.
So,
yeah, 74 is in that time frame right there.
What was the mood? What was it? Like, I know people were probably like, no, he didn't do anything wrong. And then the way we are now. But, like, was everyone kind of like, oh, my God, is he really doing this?
Well, nobody knew. I think that was the problem. I mean, everybody had heard, the Watergate stuff. They'd heard. I mean, it had been breaking over time. In fact, if you go back probably in history, it was probably the biggest, at the time right after Watergate, the highest press esteem that people had, that they trusted journalists probably more after the last few years after that, because of what they, quote, found.
Right.
And look, Nixon was not a likable guy, in some ways but he did. I mean, the amazing thing about Richard Nixon is that he was such a paradox. Okay. But he opened up China, but yet was, quote, tough on crime. He bombed the snot out of North Vietnam, but actually, worked toward negotiating a settlement. He was just such a paradox. But the thing I remember most, and I remember clearly being at mom and dad's house and when it happened, because I was just getting interested in, I was like 8, 9, but it was just like a pale came on it was just like, wow, this is sad. And I, at least from my perspective, I just felt sad.
Well, also over history, what makes it sadder is the fact that he literally did it to himself.
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing, no one was actually after him.
Yeah, no, he could have won the election. Again, the Democrats are such a
Exactly. It's very funny. Do you have any others on your list?
Yeah, I got just a few I want to run through that actually
Let's do it.
They set a standard, what I'll call the standard.
Sure.
Remember, I talked about Andrew Luck. I think some of these
Yes.
others that I'm just going to run through them real quickly. One has a common theme, the NFC North, and it's called the Lions. But of course, Rob Gronkowski, Gale Sayers.
Gale Sayers, that one's more sad than anything.
Yeah, it is. Gale Sayers just sad. And then you've got, here are the three, all happen to be from the Lions.
Oh,
Barry Sanders,
Barry
Calvin
Sanders.
Johnson, and Billy
Yep.
Sims.
And Billy, see, there's another one that I didn't even think about.
I mean, if you think
But
about those
Megatron
three,
was close to making my list for sure.
yeah, I mean, but you think about Calvin Johnson, Megatron, amazing.
He left in his prime.
In his prime.
Him and Barry Sanders left during their
Barry,
prime.
and then when Barry left, I mean, it went down. But again, you're also think about this. You're on the Lions. You're all they got. You're going to get beat up. You're going to get killed. And Billy Sims as well. They're running. But what I think it was interesting to me that they all decided, hey, I've had enough. I'm not gonna keep going on this. I'm not gonna put my body through this. I'm not gonna continue. And so for me, it was just a setup that maybe knowing when to go is a good thing as well.
And you know what? I bet you they also set the precedent for guys to be like, I'm going to get out of the situation I'm in before I end up like them.
Exactly. I mean, how many – I think it almost is a sin that the worst team – and I say this in a way – the worst team in the league gets the first draft choice.
You know what? I've thought about this a lot, Doug. I know that I am not going to take this to an extreme, but the idea – that we let this 19, 18, 20-year-old kid, whatever they are, and then football to 22, 21, go to the worst possible situation with almost no hope. Now, look at Trevor Lawrence. He got lucky this year because he got a real head coach, and they do have a little bit of talent. But think about the first –
a little bit of an offensive
But the first season, he had the worst possible situation that could have been ruined. Now, the Cleveland Browns have a list of people. I mean, they should be arrested for what they've done to teenagers, to the 20-year-olds.
Well, it's interesting. How many times have you seen a running back or especially a quarterback go to a terrible team and end up with a knee injury within the first couple of years? Because one of the reasons that they're a bad team is they have no blocking.
Doug, if you go to school for 8 years and you do great work, you get to decide where you go to work after that. If you get your PhD, you get to decide where you want to go to work, and you're going to get paid handsomely. This poor person is getting drafted by the Detroit Lions. I mean, it should. I'm not saying we have to change things, but there should be some you don't deserve this pick. What did you do to deserve this? You sucked all season.
Well, and I'm going to bring it up to another thing, and we'll throw this in maybe another time when we get Chan Gailey back on. I'm going to talk about, I think now that the USFL is back and we also have the, quote, XFL back, I'm wondering if we don't need a relegation.
Oh,
like they use in soccer.
I'm not going to, but we were talking about doing this in my fantasy football league. If you're the worst, you go down to a second league, and we'll start that. I think it's a brilliant idea. The NBA should do it too.
Yeah.
Put them in the G League. If you're going to act like this, you don't get to be in the big boy league.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see it, and it's become so often. You can almost name the bottom 4 teams before the season starts.
We should do this with everything. Like if there's a couple of restaurants in your area that aren't doing great, get them booted out and bring in some new ones.
Relegation. We get it. All right, folks. This is what we do on Fridays. We go back over news. We talk about things that nobody might think about, but also gives you something to think about while you're running, while you're out running errands, and while you're doing exercise. But it is always fun. We got to have another one next week. But for now, that is James and I are signing off on Friday's Finest. We'll talk to you later. Hey folks, MyPillow is excited to bring to you their biggest bedding sale ever. For a limited time, you're going to get the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, a set of pillowcases for only $9.98, and rejuvenate your bed with a MyPillow mattress topper for as low as $99.99. $99.99. Get a mattress pillow topper. Look, they come in all sizes. They got all kinds of stuff. Blankets. They've got duvets. They got quilts. They got comforters. They got body pillows. They got bolster pillows. They got all at big, big discounts. And also, they're extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas until March 1, 2023, making them the perfect gift for your friends, your family, and for everyone you know. Folks, and just from a personal note here, I have the Giza Dream Sheets. They're on my bed right now. I slept on them last night. Some of the best sheets that we and Lisa and I have ever owned. They are worth, I mean, at this price, they're a steal. My wife and I have bought bed sheets, linens at much higher cost. It's supposedly much higher quality. These from MyPillow are at the highest of quality, and at a price like this, you can't beat it. So go now to MyPillow.com, use promo code Collins, COLLINS, or call 1-800-986-3994, and you'll get huge discounts on all the MyPillow bedding products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98, and get all your shopping done while qualities last. And remember, put in that promo code Collins for these discounts.